Hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. I am continuing our Introduction to Magic series. We're talking about turn order this time. If you're looking at the training wheels format thing that I made that's intended to teach people Magic the Gathering, I've simplified this a lot by taking out all the instant speed stuff. So a lot of this video I'm talking about things that happen at instant speed and how they can affect gameplay. That doesn't happen in the training wheels format because we just took all of that stuff out. So it simplifies it greatly. But if you like this video and you find it helpful, please hit like and subscribe. So before we get into the turn order, we're going to talk about some important aspects of turn order. And even before that, we're going to get into what you need to do on your turn. And most important is communicate, right? Communication is key. Make sure you are declaring your actions as you're doing them. There's a lot going on in a Magic game. It can be overwhelming at times, even for experienced players it can be. So you need to keep saying what you're doing though. A lot of times people start just like tapping lands and like throwing spells down and not really speaking the whole time. That's when everyone else forgets what's going on or doesn't know what's going on. You need to tell people is one important thing. Anyway, so saying things like, I go to combat at the start of your combat phase. Land for turn when you're playing your land. On your end step. So if it's someone else's turn and you want to do something on their end step, say on your end step to clearly declare those things. So the turns are broken up into different parts. I guess first we'll start with round. Everyone's turn and then turn, of course. And then there's phases. There are 5 phases and each phase is made up of different steps. Different number of steps, unfortunately. A little bit confusing, but it's okay. There's also the other thing to consider is speed. So how fast do these things occur? Speed in Magic the Gathering just means, is it instant, meaning right away it happens, or is it sorcery, meaning you can only do it during your main phases? So these are 2 very different things. Instant speed things, like a lot of abilities are instant speed, and instants are of course instant speed. Other things with, say, like permanents with flash can have instant speed as well. That means you can play it almost any time. There are select times where even instants aren't allowed, but very rarely. Sorcery, though, is limited to only during those main phases. Instant can only affect things on the stack. So if something avoids going on the stack, that means other players do not get to respond to it. They cannot cast instants and things against it. A very common example of this is playing a land for turn. Your land for turn does not go on the stack. So that means you put your land down for turn, no one else can really do anything about it. There might be very select situations where they're able to like counter it in some way, but very, very few and far between. So pay attention also when triggers activate. So does it activate on a particular turn, like the end step, or does it activate at the upkeep, or does it activate? A lot of triggers, if you miss them, they're just gone. They're considered you forgot, especially if it says you may do this, then yeah. If you forget, it's just gone. A lot of these triggers are things that are good for you as well, so if you miss them, it's just bad for you. Also remember, turns go clockwise. Always in clockwise order. My students will often want to go like in this weird order where they do rock, paper, scissors, see who goes first, and then they have like first, and then second is across the table, and third is over. Like, yeah, no. That would get way too confusing. Just go clockwise. So let's talk about the actual turn order now. Again, these are in phases. There are 5 phases. First of all, your beginning phase, your first main, combat, second main, and then your end phase, and that's it. You're broken up into very small steps that can be a little bit more hard to manage, but it's the phases themselves I think are quite easy. One important thing to remember though is that you cannot change the order of these. There are cards that might give you like an extra beginning step or something like that, or a beginning phase or something like that, but you do not always get like to just put them in any order you want. One very common mistake I see people making is that you'll have something that says, say, draw a card at the beginning of your end phase. That means the end of your turn. So they'll draw, like, say, a land. If they haven't played a land for a turn, then they want to put the land down. No, sorry. Your main phase is over. It's now your end phase, right? So you can't be doing a whole bunch of extra casting unless they're instant speed. The first phase is the beginning phase. It is made up of 3 steps: your untap, your upkeep, and your draw. Your untap is one of the times where you cannot use instants at all. Upkeep, as soon as upkeep comes, and draw, people can use instants. There might not be a point though, so that's one thing to consider. Upkeep is not actually used all the time. It's something that comes up on some cards and not on others. So if you do have an upkeep trigger, make sure don't forget it. But in general, upkeep, you can kind of just ignore it. Anyway, only instants may be used after the untap step, remember. So this is not a time where you can cast like sorceries or creatures or artifacts or any of that. Enchantments, no dice. I'm going to talk about main 1 and main 2 now. Remember, combat is in between, but main 1 and main 2 are basically the same thing. So we're going to cover them at the same time. This is when you can cast things like sorceries, artifacts, enchantments, creatures. Pretty much everything is fair game during the main phases. Only on your turn, of course, but one important thing to make sure you get is your land drop. You get 1 land per turn automatically, and that's during your main phase. Using damaging effects during your main 2 may allow you to put more damage on a creature that's already taken damage. Remember, damage does accumulate throughout the turn. It isn't until the end step, the cleanup, when they finally get their damage taken off. So any damage they take during combat, in main 2 you can add some more damage and probably get rid of the creature. So that's always nice. This is the combat phase. It's actually made up of 4 different steps. So the declare attackers, declare blockers, damage, which is kind of broken up into 2 separate ones. So there's first strike, or double strike, first strike, and then the regular damage, and end combat step. So yeah. First up, declaring attackers. Remember, you attack the other player, you don't attack their things. A lot of newer players will always try to like attack other creatures. It's like, yeah, you don't attack the creatures, you attack the player, and then the player will decide how to block, right? So if I attack with 2 creatures, and they have 3 different creatures, let's say, they can decide what they're blocking with. So that's when they declare blockers. Next up is damage. This is often when people choose to use like instants or some kind of trick that will affect the outcome of the combat. So yeah, you want to wait until they declare the blockers, and then you're going to change how much damage something is doing to get the result you want. And finally, the end combat step. So players can use instant speed abilities here and spells here, but usually don't have a reason to. So you're technically allowed to, but if you're using some kind of combat trick, you should have done it earlier, right? Now we're going to talk about the end phase. This is made up of 2 parts. The end step, even the end step is kind of the main part, to the point where it's almost always called the end step. And the cleanup. Again, this is when all of the damage and stuff is removed from creatures. So if a player wants to do something on another player's end step, or before their end step, you say, on your end step, I have an action. So let them know, oh, I'm going to do something before you go to your end step. Because you don't get to just like go through the, phases really quickly so that other people can't respond. You have to give them a fair chance, but you also have to tell people if you're going to do something. And finally, yeah, so the end step is your last chance to be doing all of that. You may have triggers that go off on the end step. Remember, if your end step triggers go off, you can't go back and like take your main phase again. The cleanup step is when all of the damage is removed from creatures and effects that say until end of turn go away. First, the damage is removed, and then those effects are taken away. This is very important because let's say a creature has 4 damage on it, and it's a 2/2, but it has a +3/+3. If you take that +3 away first and leave the damage, it means that creature goes to the graveyard. It's going to die. But if you take away the damage first and make it a 5/5 with no damage, and it goes down to being a 2/2, well, it lives. So the outcome is completely different based on which order you take those in. So it is rare that a card will allow you to play during another player's end step. It happens, but it's extremely rare. So keep an eye out for those if you have them, but usually another player's end step is just going to be like you don't really have much to do.